3, 2, and 1. Hey guys, hello, we are live. And today I have Julia Hemmings joining me. Julia, where are you at? You're in the car. I know you're the jet setter. You're always hustling. So where are you at today?
So today I'm still in Chicago. Getting ready to head to Austin soon. So.
Oh, for South by Southwest. Oh, wow. Cool. Yeah, no, I'm always jealous of Julia because she like texts me and she's like, how's it going? And I'm like, great. She's like, oh yeah, I'm in Florida. And I'm like, crap, it's 10 degrees outside in Chicago. Or, oh, I'm going to South by Southwest. Yeah, it's 20 degrees in Chicago.
I know, right?
On that side. So no, that's great. And so we've got Julia, who's one of our leaders in our Women Who Crypto, a female-focused investing group. And in addition, we're joined by a special guest, Mark Jeffrey, who is, I guess you are a serial entrepreneur. Well, you do a lot of things. And why don't we take a second just to introduce yourself? Because I think both myself and Julia will do a bad job introducing you. So straight from the horse's mouth, all I know is you're a really smart guy. So why don't you?
Well, that's a great intro. So my name is Mark Jeffrey. I'm currently the co-founder and CEO of a company called Gaurdium Token. We have a crypto called Gaurdium. And before that, my history is basically I've done several internet startups over the years. I've been funded variously by Time Warner, SoftBank. I was a C-level exec at a company backed by Elon Musk and Sequoia. I've had a couple exits and one horrific failure, everyone seems to need to have one of those. And then the other side of my life is I've written several books. I'm a published author with Harper Collins. Most of those are novels. So, and then two of those are Bitcoin books. One I wrote in 2013 and another one in 2015, which was called The Case for Bitcoin. And that one I wrote after the Mt. Gox crash. And everyone, went down from $1,200 to $160. Everyone went, oh my God, this was never real. And I was like, nope, it's totally real. And so I made a big case for it. And so that's in a nutshell my background. Yep. Seem to have lost you here.
Sorry, I had a goof up, but yeah, wow, no, that's quite something. I mean, you've been in this since the beginning. I guess I always like to find the story, or maybe Julia, you can start. Tell us about the first bad investment deal, the first time you got screwed, because we've all been screwed in this blockchain thing. So Julia, you want to start? What was the first time you got screwed? Investing in this.
You're saying screwed in the blockchain?
Yeah, sure. Or I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being, it's Friday and I'm feeling kind of silly, I guess. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is that you're always going to, when you get into business, if you think you won't get screwed, then you're already starting off really naive to the process, right? I mean, I think that's part of it. I think it's more like, what do you learn from being screwed? That makes it all, worthwhile. And, and that's what I always try to take is just lessons from every opportunity where things might not go the way I expect in business, which happens, a lot of times. And what do you do to make sure it doesn't happen again? But
and Mark, this is one of the reasons why I admire Julia so much, because she has such a positive perspective.
She does.
It's like, I mean, I'll tell you about the first time about me. I don't know if you'll know this, Julia, but you'll probably know the story. So do you remember Homero Garza? Homero Josh?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Paycoin, Zen miners. Come on now.
That was not ringing a bell for me.
Okay, so that was my first, negative experience in this crypto space. Homero has made he's made recent news headlines because he finally pled guilty to $9 million worth of wire fraud. But they were one of the first crypto scams that I think their thing is they invented the insta-mining concept, where you could press a button and, add 10 million more tokens to the supply chain on that side. So I don't know, Mark, why don't you talk about yourself? I mean, I know you've been in this space forever, so I'm sure you've got a great story.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could talk about times before the blockchain, but I'll limit myself to the times I got screwed in blockchain. And really, there's sort of one big one, and I kind of screwed myself. So one of the things I did in 2014, I've been very into podcasting over the years as well. So I did about 40 episodes of a thing called Bitcoin News Weekly. And we had some, and by the way, there's some amazing interviews in there. One of them was Vitalik Buterin in 2014, before the Ethereum ICO. And he was still in like, earnest pitch mode, like, oh my God, I hope this works, kind of vibe to him. And we interviewed him, and he basically described an ICO, and we weren't really getting it. We were kind of like, yeah, so what is this? And we pay you in Bitcoin, and then like sometime later you send us your coin. And it was and so anyway, so long story short is, at the end of the interview, I said, okay, I'm gonna invest in your ICO. And afterwards I kind of went, I don't know about this. I did end up investing. So I invested 1 Bitcoin.
In Ethereum.
Yeah. In the Ethereum ICO.
Dude, that's awesome.
Which is great. And so, but my God, I wish I'd invested a lot more. I could have. And I just was like, yeah, I don't want to waste any more Bitcoins is kind of my thinking. And
dude, I mean, at the time of the Ethereum ICO, I mean, Ethereums were nothing, literally.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I think it was like 50 cents a coin, if I remember right. So, and then I sold about half of that pretty early. And so, because I was just kind of like, it's not moving. I'll get rid of some of it. And now I'm just like, no.
Dude, Ethereum is like the best thing in the world. I mean,
I know. It was the greatest investment of 2014. It was better than anything else on earth. And and I was in on it, but unfortunately, and I did do well. So I don't want to like take away from that either. Thank God I kept half of it, and I did very well with that. But my God, what I could have done was amazing.
Wow. I mean, I thought I was lucky because I got into some ETH back when it was like under $10, but you got in at the ICO level, dude. That is, wow. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. So let's go into it. So tell us about yourself. Obviously you've been around the block. You knew, the Ethereum guy before he was the Ethereum guy, right? So, tell us about what you're up to, what's going on. Yeah, just talk, man. This is
sure.
I just want to take some notes at this point because you got a lot of knowledge that I want to gain.
So I'll tell you about Gaurdium Circle. So Gaurdium Circle and the Gaurdium Token together comprise global decentralized 911. And what that means is basically 6 billion people on Earth have no 911. There is no magic number that they can call when like the shit goes down, right? Like you and I, if we're in trouble, we have a magic number. Most people don't. So there's that. On our side of the fence, the 1 billion of us that have something, especially in the United States, it's not very good. And you and I are not as well protected as we think. When you call 911 from a mobile device, they have no idea where you are. None. Uber can find you more easily than 911, which is just insane. And the reason why is because, basically 911 was invented in the 60s, and it basically hasn't been upgraded since then at all. So
that's kind of interesting because I don't know if I mentioned, I was in the telecom space, and at one point I actually negotiated spectrum rights with Verizon. So I happen to know a lot about the back end side. So I know there's like GPS triangulation in terms of how that works.
Some places have that, but John Oliver did a whole bit on exactly that, and he basically was like, "Look, this doesn't work." And he was inside 911. He did a bit called 911. 911 sucks, right? Like John Oliver, and he's inside the 911 building calling 911, and they can't find him. So it's not very good. So we just said to ourselves, the way the world should work is wherever you are on the planet, whenever you're in trouble, all you should have to do is press a button. Button sends your alert up to the cloud. The cloud looks down and sees what people and resources are already nearby. It then activates, coordinates, and pushes that help to you. So who are these people? Well, it starts off with your friends, family, and neighbors. They should be on your emergency grid. Odds are they're closest and can help you fastest. So, figure 20, maybe 60 people. And you push the button, they get alerted, and they start coming. The other people that we're going to put on here, this is what we're moving towards in the future, are roving EMTs. In some places, licensed and armed and bonded security, private security. Concierge alert operators that enter your alert room, and you don't have to worry about 911 busy signals. And that concierge alert operator already knows where you are. So, and they have access to all the same numbers that 911 people do. when you call 911, all they do is call somebody else. These people have those same numbers and could also call someone else, but they have the added advantage of your location, and they have the knowledge of your friends, family, and neighbors. If you're allergic to bee stings, there's all kinds of information that needs to flow in an emergency. And what we do is we put all those people together in a chat room and on a map. So in 30 seconds, everybody knows where everybody else is, and everybody can talk to everybody. So without requiring them to know each other in advance, and that's the important part.
So to summarize it, is Gaurdium Circle what, blockchain for 911? Is that a way of looking at it, or?
Yeah, so we don't actually process the emergencies on the blockchain. So I want to make sure everyone knows that, because people are thinking to themselves, oh my God, I have to wait for a block generation before like my alert goes up. No, it's not like that at all. So that part of it is not on the blockchain. All of the contracts to form emergency response solutions, wherever you are in the world, those are on the blockchain. So how people get paid, how the contracts are set up, what you're subscribed to. All of the alert transcripts are inscribed on the blockchain. So full timeline of where everyone was, what everyone said, what time they answered the alert or did not answer. And all this is encrypted on the blockchain, and the keys are handed to the alerting party. They have custody. They decide who sees it and who doesn't. The other thing we put on the blockchain is something we call the emergency information lockbox. And this is basically a record you can make ahead of time of all the stuff you don't want anyone to know about unless you're in trouble. So your secret health issue, where you hid the key in your front yard that opens your front door, all that kind of stuff. This is only popped open when you declare an emergency alert, and it's only made available to your designated recipients. So two-key system. And both of these things, all that stuff is information we can't open even if we wanted to, as you know, blockchain stuff. So in the alert transcripts, you know that they're not tampered with because of blockchain magic. And so it's, admissible evidence in court. So there you go.
So the first thing that comes to mind, and I guess I'm curious, because if you're a blockchain person, you're probably strong on privacy. Kind of sounds like Big Brother.
Well, it's not, because you decide, you have full control over who gets access to your location. So basically, your friends, family, neighbors, you have to ask them to become your guardians in the system. And they have to download the app and either say yes or no. It's like a friend connection on Facebook, same idea. And if you're continuously hitting the button, I may unguard you, right? Because you're a pain in the ass. I don't.
Oh, so it's like it's kind of like a social network or
like
something.
A social network, yeah. And then on the other side, for the paid response, you can think of us sort of like Time Warner, and the paid response vendors are like, Showtime, HBO, and you just select which subscriptions you want on top of the free service. So the free service, you can have as many guardians as you want. You can have 5, 50, 500, 5,000. We don't care.
Okay, so there's a free model.
Yeah.
So in your case, you're using the blockchain, but you still have your own, call it cloud app infrastructure.
Correct.
So you got like some servers in the cloud at Amazon or something like that.
That's exactly right. So the alerts are processed in a centralized fashion. Now, that's not to say that down the road we can't decentralize all that, and that is our ambition. Mm-hmm. So, eventually down the road, the active mining is in some way the act of processing emergencies for people around the world. So we want to go there, but blockchains are tortoises, and in emergencies we need a hare. So at some point in the future that'll probably change, but for right now that's kind of where it is.
Wow. Now you had mentioned, initially you were going to build your own blockchain, but actually, can I talk about that? Or
yeah, you can. That's public information now.
Oh, okay. So you had mentioned initially you were going to build a blockchain, but now you're going to make a big announcement, or a big announcement has been made about how you're building on the Neo blockchain. Yep. Can you maybe, walk us through this? Because, you're obviously an expert and stuff like that. Basically it's a build. I look at this as a build versus buy thing, right? If you built your own blockchain, you got to go find a bunch of miners, deploy the network, blah, blah, blah. If you go on Neo, you press a button, it's all ready to go. Well, they're still in testnet mode, but it will be ready to go. But the downside is you got to pay in gas, right? Is your fee of renting. Yeah. Can you maybe talk about that, or, help us understand, maybe someone who's not as familiar with how all this stuff works?
Sure. So we thought about, when we started thinking about building our own crypto, we looked at Ethereum, because that's obviously the choice kind of everyone else uses. and building an ERC20 token. But two things kind of disturbed us about Ethereum. One was the 21 transaction per second limit, number one, and then the price of gas was the second one. So right now, gas is somewhere between $3 and $5. I don't know where it is right now, but kind of in that range. Which for the 6 billion people who have no 911, that's too much. They can't afford that. So we basically were afraid. We were afraid that Ethereum couldn't scale, and then CryptoKitties came along and proved us right. Basically all of the Ethereum network just kind of gummed up for a couple of days, and nobody could get their transactions through. So, and even though we don't process the emergency alerts on the blockchain, it's still integral to people getting paid and those contracts being set up. And it was entirely possible that if that had gummed up at the wrong time, it could actually result in someone dying.
Well, 911, you can't fuck around. Sorry, you can't screw around with that.
No. We don't have the tolerance for that. So there was too much technical volatility in the Ethereum universe. We kind of concluded the same thing about the Bitcoin universe for different reasons. This was the time where Bitcoin Cash came out, and Roger Ver was saying Bitcoin's going to die and Bitcoin Cash is going to become the real blockchain. And like whatever you think about that, there was a real possibility that could have happened. I mean, now it seems ridiculous, but at the time it did not seem like it was entirely ridiculous. We just didn't know. And so we thought there was too much technical volatility, well, forking going on in Bitcoin also. So we just sort of said, the safest thing that we can do to serve, saving people's lives and to do this correctly is to just do our own, at least in the beginning. We might transplant the blockchain later, but at least for the first year, if we just simply build a Litecoin fork and do our own thing, we can rest assured that would, this whole thing will work and it'll be stable and we don't have to worry about anything. Over the course of the following 4 months or so, while we were out on the road pitching this at conferences, Neo just matured quite rapidly. And we saw a lot of proof points. And then we saw, NEP5 tokens come out. And the more we looked at it, the more we said, well, crap, it's scalable right now. You can do, 1,000 transactions per second or more. It can, the blocks are generated in, 10 to 15 second bursts. So they're very fast. So, and also the gas of Neo's gas is separated from Neo itself specifically to stop the crazy inflation of gas that we see in Ethereum. And when Ethereum uses itself as gas, so as the price of Ethereum goes up, the price of its gas goes up. So I don't know whether Neo will succeed at keeping the price of their gas down or not, but at least they've made a reasonable attempt to do so. So we felt like it was good enough, at least initially, for us to build on top of. And it just made everything we want to do easier. There's, the city of Zion has a really great wallet called Neon, which is, dummy friendly. And what we were building was basically a QT wallet fork. And it felt like something from 3 years ago. And the more I looked at it, the more I was like, this is not acceptable. Mm-hmm. And to top it all off, there are now some rich libraries that are available for the Neon wallet, which will enable us to build it directly into the Guardian Circle app super easily. And we would have had to, jump through all kinds of hoops to do the same thing with the Litecoin fork. So for that reason and a whole bunch more, we just said, you know what, this is the better way to go.
Interesting. Sorry, Julia, did I interrupt you? Were you going to ask a question?
I have a question. So, just going back to the solution, I had the opportunity to tour a 911 facility. The whole process was, just the limit of actual staff that they have in those call centers. And when you think about the emergencies coming in, and they spoke about how taxing it can be. And there was just a recent article that came out out of Delaware talking about how their 911 dispatchers are just, taxed, and to the point that they have a turnover rate of around 60%. So it seems to me that your solution now is going to really truly be able to help eliminate this, especially with the immediate team being those that care about the one in jeopardy most, being their family, friends, and neighbors. Would you agree with that?
I would agree entirely that the basically emergency response should start first in a peer-to-peer fashion and then be augmented by professional solutions. Obviously, medical stuff, you need medical people. So I don't want to, say that your friends, family, neighbors should perform medical things on you that they don't know what the hell they're doing. Not that. But, 90% of the time, they are probably closest to drive you to the hospital or at least, administer some quick first aid that anyone can do. Or, if you're under attack, a lot of times just somebody else showing up is enough to scare off the attacker. Bad people usually like to operate in the shadows. And if we get rid of a lot of those shadows faster, we can probably prevent a lot of worse things from happening. So one of the things we've done is we've become partners with the X Prize Foundation on the Women's Safety X Prize. And this is specifically designed to solve the problem of women being assaulted sexually in India. And it's worse than you think, because when the woman's assaulted and she calls the cops come and assault her also, because the thinking in India is like, well, she's ruined, so why not? Which is an insane way to think, but that's just the way it is. So the answer is not more cops. So how do you solve something like that? And the only reasonable answer is to have some sort of peer-to-peer citizen response of fathers and brothers and sisters too, but people who care about that person who can get there fast. That's one half of the problem. The other half of the problem is giving the person in trouble an easy way to set off an alert. And I haven't talked about this yet. The other sort of big thing that we do is we have an open API that lets anyone plug any alert device into our emergency grid. So the Women's Safety X Prize is a contest to make the ideal panic button for women. So one that I've seen is really cool is a ring with a button on it, right? You just need to do that. So if you're under attack, you can always do this. Other people have done watches, but it's got the problem if you have to kind of cross over your arms. There are other really clever ideas that they've had as well. And all of these things plug into our alert grid. So you hit the button, Gaurdium Circle organizes the peer-to-peer response. And especially in India, for reasons that are peculiar to India, but also there are other places in the world that are so spread out that, basically the cops or the official services just can't get there fast enough, or they just don't exist, or they're entirely corrupt. So in most places in the world, this is the only reasonable answer.
So this is your primary market is definitely more, it sounds like, the developing world, where the infrastructure isn't quite there versus the developed world, or?
I think ultimately it is the developing world, and I'm going out to India actually in April to start talking about deploying the winning solution in India. And they have some, the X Prize and the government of India have some big plans for that, but I can't discuss, but it's a big deployment. Yeah. And, so we'll be definitely doing that. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually roll out the paid service for the first time in the United States, because the problems here are also severe. They're less severe than India, but I've been basically meeting with what will probably be our first vendor, a woman who runs a company with several thousand EMTs. And she's telling me that the way in which the EMT world works and the way in which, basically there's lots of people who die because of the procedural way in which they are forced to operate. If they're on their way on a non-emergency call and they get a call to deal with an emergency, they have to finish the non-emergency call first. So that person just sits there and dies, right? So there's all kinds of crazy things that are in existence in America that this could very well better solve. There are EMTs very near most accidents, but they just don't know that something is going on. And in speaking with this woman, the EMT and EMTs in particular, they want to help. They're mad about this. They're mad that something happens around the street corner, on the street corner just near them, and they don't know about it, and they could have done something, and it just angers them in a deep way. So now we provide a way for them to do it and to save lives that wouldn't have been saved any other way.
Wow. Okay, so just to interrupt, just for people who are just tuning in, I'm here with Julia, who's one of our ambassadors in our Women Who Crypto, investing group and forum, along with our Digital Underground. And I've also got Mark, who is, are you CEO or founder of?
I'm both, CEO and co-founder.
So, yeah, Mark is a blockchain and Bitcoin old guard person who, knew the Ethereum guy before the Ethereum even happened, right? He invested in the Ethereum ICO, and he's launching this service called Gaurdium Circle. So just wanted to give everyone a heads up on that. Okay, so now going back into this, and I just want to kind of rephrase so I understand. The fundamental concept of Gaurdium Circle is that friends and family are going to care more or be quicker to react to a distressed person in need and that's the first line, and then there's a secondary line of actual 911. Is that kind of how it comes together?
Yeah. It's basically subscription service to private emergency response, qualified private emergency response. So EMTs, private security. These people are licensed and bonded, so it's not like, just a guy with a gun. So these are corporations that actually are providing these services right now and have their own insurance and infrastructure in place. What they're missing is an open alert emergency grid. There is no way that you and I can plug into 911. If we invent some cool new device that is an easy way for people to set off an alert, there's no way we can plug it in, right? So that's one layer we provide. The other layer we provide is a way for any private responder service to plug in and offer their services at a subscription to anyone who wants to subscribe to them. So we're Time Warner, and all these different subscription services are like, Showtime, HBO, etc. We have a marketplace of paid responders. Interesting.
And then to expand on that, so that's the app, but you tie into the blockchain, but the blockchain is more of an identity management tool for you. Is that kind of how it fits together? Or?
It's that. It's also the way in which the subscription contracts are formed, and the way in which people get paid. So everyone gets paid in Gaurdium. And one of our hopes is, the other thing I've really talked about too, yes, we do think the developing world is very important. Part of what we think will power the effectiveness of this solution in the developing world is giving. And we think that giving will be a big behavior. So just like you sponsor a child, you can now sponsor safety in the developing world. And we will provide a way for you to send your Gaurdium to beneficiaries overseas. And the cool thing about that is you can track every donated dollar as easily as a FedEx package. So how much of it actually made it to the end beneficiary at the other end. And so basically, it's not going through a bank, a government, or an organization. So that it was not spent inefficiently or inappropriately. And Red Cross in Haiti, I'm looking at you. That can't happen in this system. We want to have extreme accountability for the sponsorship of safety around the world.
Okay. So then the Gaurdium, let's talk about, token economics and things like that. Now, how does the Gaurdium token work? And help me understand, right? Because let me step back. You are doing some type of ICO, or is that the plan?
We are doing a token sale right now, yes.
Okay, so you're doing a token sale. So I'm going to buy your token. How, and I assume this is more of this is going to fall under the utility token side versus the security token. So I buy your token, and I don't know, you're selling it for a penny or $1 or whatever the heck it is. How does that, as an investor buying your coin, how will I make money? I guess it's just the simple way of asking.
So let me tell you two things. So the tokenomics work like this. There's 100 million Gaurdium that we've created. We are selling 30 million of them. So just hold on to that thought for a second. If you look at, you've all seen the I've fallen and I can't get up commercials, right? You guys,
yeah.
So that's Life Alert. Life Alert, all they do is they provide a little button device you wear around your neck, you press it, and it makes a phone call. And it has to be connected to a landline, by the way. And that pretty much all they're selling is concierge emergency alert operators. They don't trust 911 to actually take care of your grandma. So what they're selling is
that the case? Okay, I didn't realize that Life Alert worked that way. That's interesting.
Pretty much all it is. It's concierge 911. That is a $2 billion a year industry.
So you're going after, you're basically a competitor to the Life Alert thing. I still have those commercials burned in my head.
Well, Life Alert doesn't actually send someone. All Life Alert does is call, the cops or the ambulance or whatever you need.
Yeah.
So it's like a, remote concierge 911, monitor type person. Mm-hmm. So, but that's all they are. And that alone, only for the elderly, only in the United States, is a $2 billion a year industry. But I think it's reasonable to assume that worldwide emergency response, and you add in actual responders, call it 30 billion. And I think that's fairly conservative, but I think we can all agree with that. So, if and all the Gaurdium tokens, all 100 million of them, start off being worth $30 million. Our target goal is to expand it to be 30 billion. And if we basically get enough of a ecosystem going, we think we can capture some portion of that. So that is sort of where you start off and where a reasonable ending spot is. And I think it's very low, actually. If you worldwide emergency response, I think is probably a lot bigger, but I can say that it's probably at least 30 billion. That's what the multiple could look like. So that's sort of the first idea. The second idea that I want to throw into your head is, if Uber had started with an Uber coin back in 2010, first of all, when Uber was built, who did the actual work? I mean, I don't want to take away from Travis and all those guys, but the people who did the labor were the early drivers in San Francisco who actually drove the cars. They're the people that, provided the service that became very popular. And they should have been rewarded. There was no way for them to be rewarded, though, because you couldn't issue them stock for 1099 people, right? There was no structure for them to participate in the expansion of the ecosystem that they built. So our hope is that some of the early paid responders hang on to some of their Guardium. They don't just cash them all in as dollars. And our hope is that this does expand and their Guardium becomes worth a lot more and they're able to participate in the thing that they helped build, especially if they were in early. So that's the basic idea.
So, okay, so again, it's still, I'm still not sure what, maybe I'm just slow. I'm not sure what I'm getting, right? So you're selling me a token. Yep. I like your idea. Like, I understand the concept, like, I buy a Neo, and it's going to go up. I understand why I buy gas. I understand why I buy Ethereum or Factum or things like that. The token, like, is it used as part of the service? Is it
it's payment.
Is it a staking algorithm? I guess, and I don't know, maybe Julia, maybe you get it and I don't. I'm just being slow.
We're building. So the simple explanation is we are building a ecosystem around emergency response. You must be paid in Guardium or you must pay in Guardium to participate in that ecosystem. If it becomes sizable, then the Guardium will go up in value just naturally because there'll be more demand for a limited supply. So we'll either be successful at that or we won't. That's kind of it.
Oh, okay. And then in terms of the actual token, is there just a supply that you have that you issue? Is there like a decay algorithm? Is there an inflation algorithm? Is there a mining algorithm? How does it come together?
Limited supply of 100 million tokens. There will never be any more or any less.
Okay, so you started by saying there's 100 million tokens and it is what it is. And right now you guys have them all. And you're going to sell X number of some percentage of those tokens.
30%.
In your ICO
that
you're doing. Okay.
Correct.
And then you retain 70%, which you're going to use for a variety of things, maybe sales, maybe marketing, maybe incentives, maybe developer, community-driven.
Yeah. Those are all on our site. You can see the pie chart. It's all up there at Gaurdium.co.
Oh, okay. And that's how that's going to go. And then eventually what's going to happen is people will buy Gaurdium tokens because to use the service, they need Gaurdium tokens. I will convert my fiat into Gaurdium tokens. And then the more and more that we use it because there's limited supply. So how do you factor in that case, like the cost of a Gaurdium, right? So is it like, let's say it's one token to get like a call. Well, when the Gaurdium token is worth, $500 a token, which is what you want to be at, I'm not going to pay $500 for a call. I mean, do you have to like rejigger your pricing or?
The pricing will always be tied to your local currency. So it'll be expressed to you in dollars. So basically whatever $5 in Gaurdium is, that's what you will pay monthly. So you don't care about whether it appreciates or not. You just care about what you're paying into it. So it's no different than more people using Bitcoin. The price of what you're buying for Bitcoin doesn't go up at all. It's just your buying power with Bitcoin goes up. So it'll be the same thing in our universe.
Interesting.
So if you buy a pile of Gaurdium right now and you subscribe to 3 services, as your Gaurdium starts running down, it may be that Gaurdium appreciates so much in value that, you thought you bought a year's worth of subscriptions. It ends up being 5 years. And so, you did well. So that could very well happen.
So what incentive do I have? It seems like you're going to have a velocity thing. What incentive do I have to hold on to Gaurdium? I mean, wouldn't I just try to hold as little as outside of appreciation? Why wouldn't I just hold on as little as Gaurdium and just keep feeding it with fiat? You
might do that. I mean, I think a lot of the customers will do that. But as long as more people are buying it, than are selling it. Obviously we have to keep expanding our offering and bringing more people, more customers into the actual app. Then it should hold itself up quite well. So, and again, it's, we're either going to succeed at that or we're not, but our intent is obviously to succeed.
No,
right?
That's cool.
So yeah.
So moving on, and now you've got me really curious. So you do the ICO. What's the process? Okay, so you get a bunch of people to buy your token. Now you got to get listed on an exchange. So do you have exchanges you're ready? I mean, the reason why I ask, it seems like you're a knowledgeable person, right? So you know this industry. So do you just have like relationships with like the KuCoin guy and the Binance guy, or there's that whole process?
So this is one of those squirrely questions that the SEC doesn't like. So I actually have to refrain from answering it anyway.
Oh, fair enough.
Sorry to be coy.
No, that's fine. It just got me curious because it's like, okay, I buy your token. Now what? You really got to get on the exchange to get liquidity. And yeah, okay. No, I get it. No, that's fascinating. Cool. Well, that's pretty interesting on the Gaurdium side. I mean, it's definitely a problem. I'm just thinking like my daughter, right? My daughter's 12 and, would love to have an easy button for her to press if something comes up and stuff like that. I don't know, Julie, if you have, are your children are still younger though, right? So they're not really running around.
I do have a child that's on the spectrum, right? And so it's really interesting because when you think about children with special needs and disabilities and so forth, I definitely see this having a real need. And it's great that, you're partnering with other companies that are creating solutions that, might not be typical like a watch, like you mentioned before. But I had a question actually about, you spoke a little bit about EMTs and their fact that they're kind of disappointed in the fact that they're not able to address these calls due to when and how they come in. And I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that Uber is now getting into Uber Health, which I thought was interesting. And that, just like with the whole car industry, they've seen a slowing because Uber has come on the market and people are using Uber more than buying vehicles. Now it seems also like the ambulances are also experiencing the same drop because now people are calling Uber when they have an emergency versus normally going to an ambulance or calling 911. Have you thought about how to partner or work with Uber?
Oh crap, Julia, you're in this business. I didn't even think about that, right?
Right, I am.
Hey, you've got a partner. Well, sorry, you know what?
I know, right? Exactly.
You just made me think about that. That's so cool. This is completely coincidental. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I definitely do think that there is some room for us to partner with Uber. Right now, we're still a little small. I should say, by the way, we do have working apps today on iOS, Android, and Alexa. So you can yell to your Alexa voice that you've fallen and can't get up, and it will send out the alert for you. That said, we're not large enough yet to be something that's interesting to Uber. And Uber also gets a little bit squirrely about anything that smacks of women's safety, because once they start admitting that there may be a problem, then they become more liable. So they the quickest way for them to deal with it is just not to deal with it, and it's sort of just a lawyer thing. So and I guess I don't like it, but I understand the strategy, I guess, from a legal perspective, and that may have changed since the culture at Uber is changing now. But I don't know one way or the other. I think there's so much on our plate right now with the XPRIZE people and getting the first version of our paid service up and running in Southern California that I'm not worried about the partnerships just yet. I have to get what I got going working before I start expanding. But yes, I absolutely there's a lot of different directions it can go, and using Uber as an emergency responder is absolutely one of them. And in fact, people are kind of already doing it because they don't trust the ambulances. And ambulances cost a lot of money. You call 911, if you get through and the ambulance comes, you got a $10,000 bill out of nowhere. And
it's funny that you brought that up. I actually knew of a company, and they failed, but I remember I had a friend or a former employee of mine that went to become COO there, and one of the biggest problems that some of these ambulance and hospital and Medicare companies have is that elderly people, if there's a church across the street from the emergency room, they'll just call Medicare to pick them up because they don't want to take the bus to church. And, those are fringe cases.
Yeah.
I think that's actually an issue because like Medicare, or I don't know if it's, and I'm not an expert, it's like Medicare or Medicaid or whatever, you know, it covers that. And like, they'll go in, yeah, they'll get their like arm looked at and then they'll walk over to church and, you know, save themselves the bus wait. Sorry about that. But the one thing I think Julia, and I didn't mean to do this, but now that she's here, you actually have an app in the EMT space or something, right? Or
So the name of our company is Best Time, and our app is not, it's not in the EMT space, it's more as it is with the physicians and the pharmaceutical space of how they actually interact. So our application is a scheduling tool that makes it more, not in this space, but I've been in the healthcare industry for so long that I've seen all aspects of what you've spoken about being challenges, right? I've heard of people not getting the care they need. I've heard of people going to church in the ambulance because it's just more convenient. You know, it's
that's not a lie. That's actually real.
Right, but it's very real. It's very real. So I think there's definitely, you know, a need, and you know, we take for granted, I think, in this country how, even though it's not where we want it to be, it's still much better than what a lot of the third world countries have to go through.
It is
100%. But I mean, I guess like I also was thinking about like the internet, like as far as internet coverage, right? So while this is like going to be amazing for third world countries, when you have like the sporadic internet coverage and so forth, like say there's an emergency in that respect, like is there a way to, you know, balance that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the places that don't have good mobile coverage, you know, there's not much we can do, but there's also not much 911 could do. So, you know, that we can't solve the cell coverage problem ourselves. We will be looking to partner with mesh network folks and other sort of satellite solutions and other things. So, you know, it's on our radar. But, you know, ultimately we need electronics and mobile devices to work in order for us to work our magic. I did talk at length with the Uber engineer who led the development effort for the Indian version of Uber. And he told me they had to write a completely different version of the app for India to basically accommodate for the fact that, like, you know, cell service just goes away for no reason, you know, because India. And the Uber app, you know, we have would freak out. It'd just be like, I lost my connection. I don't know anything. The one in India just kind of goes, yeah, it'll be back. And, you know, just sort of rolls with the punch, you know. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I probably, because I didn't get the, I know that the service is free for users, but there is a paid portion. So what does that look like?
I'm sorry, the paid portion for Gaurdium Circle?
Yeah.
So the paid version, you'll basically, so wherever you are, you'll open the app and you'll see a marketplace of paid responders. And these will be people that we've checked out, and we guarantee that they are, in fact, who they say they are. And they're qualified to provide the service they say they do. So an example would be, you know, Temple's EMT service. And we cover all of the Los Angeles County. And you can subscribe to that service for $5 a month, maybe $10 a month. And when you hit the emergency alert, your friends, family, and neighbors get the alert, but Temple's EMT service also gets the alert, and it goes to, we basically will route it to the EMT that's nearest you at the time. On the other end of the EMTs will all have sort of the responder version of the Gaurdium Circle app, which is somewhat analogous to the Uber driver app. And they will, you know, basically they will have shifts, and when they go on duty, they will be the ones who get the alert, and they will go into the map in the alert room with the friends, family, neighbors, and the alerting party, and they will start heading towards you. So now you know an EMT is already on their way to you the second you hit the alert room. So that's what you get.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Wow. So now, when are you launching, or is this thing launched, or you're in token pre-sale first, right? So you got to raise the capital and then launch this, or?
We are. As I said, the free version of the app is out right now, so you can get your friends, family, and neighbors to, you know, all protecting one another today, anywhere in the world. The version of the app where we have the Gaurdium wallets built in the app, that will come this summer, and then the full marketplaces will start opening in the fall, and we'll start in Southern California. We may also do something in India, which I'll find out when I go to India in April. I'm basically going to figure that out. So.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
No, that's cool. Well, one thing I want to bring up, it might be ways to partner because, we've got a fairly strong women's initiative that we're in the process of launching. Because, our mission is all about investing in financial literacy and actual financial action. And, that's a market that, we believe would be very interested in that. But we've actually launched a love token. So right now it's ERC20 compliant, and the coin is basically, it's just the symbol love, and you send it to each other and say, hey, here's some love, and it's kind of fun. But I think one of the things we're looking to do on the love side is to kind of partner with other people, because, so we've actually done love. We're working with like the My Ether wallet people and a few other people just to kind of spread awareness so people know how to actually use crypto. And depending on, what your opinions are, things like that. I mean, obviously love is something that's going to be more female driven because we have found women are more into sending love than men. Not that men don't send love, but it's just, it seems to resonate better with women on that side. But, maybe there's a way to work together on that front to spread awareness for, both of our little projects. And ours is a fun thing. We're not actually selling love, that would be tacky. We're just giving it away because we want to promote crypto literacy and, crypto investing education on that front. We actually have a saying, you can't buy love. Authentic love is actually given freely. So,
well, we should definitely talk. Anything that helps you spread love and helps us spread awareness, I can't help but be for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Cool. So let's talk, we've been on for a bit, but let's kind of just talk a little bit about, where you see the market and stuff like that. So, I know a lot of us all follow John McAfee, and we'd love to get your opinion, right? Is he going to have to eat his, what?
Yeah.
And just for people that don't know, John McAfee is a very controversial figure. He's actually a really intelligent guy and everything like that, but he has a tendency to put his foot in his mouth. So he made an announcement, I think what was like 6 months ago now, Mark, or I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, it was close to a year ago, I think, at this point.
Yeah, it was like Bitcoin is going to be $1 million by 2020, and if it isn't, I'm going to eat my you-know-what on national TV. So I don't know. What's your opinion? You think $1 million Bitcoin? You think it's a little rich? You think not?
So so my second book, The Case for Bitcoin, when it was $160, I show all work for this. I said that it would be worth $500K, and I didn't say when, but I thought that was a conservative upper limit of what Bitcoin would be worth. And I basically assumed that
$500K for a Bitcoin, and this was back in 2015 is when you stated that.
Yes. And I'm still pretty confident in that. What I can't predict is...
Could you share? I'm honestly curious because I personally, and again, this is my personal opinion, I am bullish on Bitcoin, but not 500. In all honesty, I'm not 500K bullish on Bitcoin. I am positive. So I'm curious to I'd love to understand your opinions because you're obviously a knowledgeable and smart person and you've been in the space.
What I did was I basically looked at...
You should have thought it through, or I'd imagine you would have thought it through, right?
Yeah, I basically say something along the lines of, look, this is how many Bitcoins there are in the world. There's 21 million that there will ever be, but really right now there's only about, I think, like 16.5 million. So
some of them are lost, right? There's like
and I
bunch in
assume
like
that
a trash heap in England somewhere or something like that.
Somebody performed an analysis and concluded that like 5 million of the coins have never moved. So some of those are Satoshis, and some of those, and we know which ones are his, so we can subtract those out. So basically, you can kind of figure out how many are lost, or in a couch somewhere, basically. And so now we're down to like call it 10 million, and then how many people own Bitcoins, and it's not very much. It's like maybe 2 million, 3 million, something like that. And you have to assume that there's some sort of worldwide event or frenzy which drives demand for these coins, and that all 7 billion people on Earth are trying to get to those 10 million coins. And this causes it to become something like gold, but probably more like this, in size like the Swiss franc as a reserve currency. Which is
so you're saying Bitcoin will, because a $500,000 Bitcoin What's that market cap then? A $500,000 Bitcoin makes.
I don't remember offhand, but yeah, it's.
I mean, we're talking like a $20 trillion market cap type of scenario.
It's something nutty like that, absolutely. But that, that's what you'd have. That's the kind of girth you'd have to be a reserve currency. And if you honestly, in your heart of hearts, believe that the store of value characteristics of Bitcoin are every bit as good as gold, but you have the added benefit of you don't have to store it in a vault and set up guards because all you need is a Trezor wallet. And maybe you need a card for your Trezor wallet, I don't know. But let's say it's a lot easier than gold. And it's certainly easier to transport. And it's certainly easier, you could basically email, if you will, Bitcoin to anyone anywhere in the world in like 10 minutes for free almost. So you know what? It's gold plus plus. And if you buy that, then at some point the whole world is going to catch on to that and they're going to start glomming in this direction. And, paper and rocks will be left behind us and crypto will be trusted more than it. So if I'm right about that, then yeah, $500,000 is super conservative. And I'd say McAfee is thinking along the same direction I am. I don't know if he shows all work or has some math behind it. I have actual math. I've used numbers and lasers and things.
So $500,000 of Bitcoin comes out to 1 e to the 13. So that's 13 zeros. So what is that? I'm kind of curious what that is, because a trillion is 12 zeros. So basically a $10 trillion valuation.
Sure.
And I think gold right now is, I think it's 6 trillion or 7 trillion. I forget. So you're actually saying the Bitcoin market will be worth more than the entire gold. So Bitcoin essentially will replace gold plus some as a store of value for the world. Wow.
Yeah. Why is that insane? Golds are wrong.
I mean, that's definitely bullish. I guess for me, I look at it more as, from my perspective, I see Bitcoin at probably 50 to 75, maybe, because I look at it, okay, diversification purposes, the gold, maybe 20% of the gold market or 10% of the gold market would go into it. And that gets me to about, 800 billion to 1.4 trillion type of a thing. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's just how I look at it. Maybe I'm too conservative as an investor. I can see your perspective. I might not agree with it, but I could see it as a possibility. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Julia? I mean, I would be very happy if Bitcoin was $500,000. I mean,
think also the fact that when you think that, how many people have access to gold, right? I mean, the chances of them having access to that and being able to invest in that is not as great as Bitcoin. I think once people start to get over it's not real currency, debacle. But I mean, I don't see why it couldn't be, especially since more people around the world have access to it. I mean, I think really the sky is the limit for it.
Wow. Well, $500,000 Bitcoin would give me a very big smile on my face. No question. And, and Mark, being an early adopter, I'm sure you'd have an even bigger smiler.
I'd be very happy. Yes, no doubt about that.
On your face with a $500,000 Bitcoin. So, wow. That's definitely quite something. So guys, Mark, or Julia, I think it's about time to wrap up, but do you have any maybe final questions for Mark or anything on that front before we wrap things up?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Great. Mark, any final comments about what you're up to or anything on that end for you?
Download our app at guardiancircle.com and you can check out the token sale at guardium.co.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. So great. Thanks a lot, everyone. It was Julia and myself. We hosted Mark Jeffrey. He's the CEO and founder of Guardium or Guardian?
Guardian Circle is the company in the app. Guardium is the token.
Okay. He's the CEO and founder of Guardian Circle. They have a token out there called the Gaurdium Token. Sounds pretty exciting. And thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Alrighty. Hold on. Let me just pause this. Great.